Hello and Namaste. I have been learning Gita and Upanishads from childhood. I'm so grateful to my mother for introducing me to these texts at a young age. The lessons I learned from Gita have helped me throughout my life. It is one of those timeless texts that speak to you at all ages. Today I'm starting a new series on Bhagavad Gita. This series is from the point of view of a lifelong student. I want to talk about the lessons from Gita that have had a major influence on my life. Lessons that have inspired me and shaped me. Lessons that have helped me navigate turbulent times. Before I proceed, I request you to subscribe to this channel and press the bell icon for reminders. You will be notified whenever I post a new video. You will find interesting insights on temple art, literature and philosophy on this channel. I want to begin this series with pranamams to my Guru, Swami Paramarthananda, to whom I owe all that I know. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. What makes Bhagavad Gita so special when we have so many brilliant texts? We are not a culture which swears by a single holy book. We have the 4 Vedas, multiple Vedangas, many Puranas, and so many books written by great sages. But Bhagavad Gita stands out among all these texts. Why is that so? For that, we need to know a little bit about how Vedas were traditionally taught. Vedas can be broadly divided into 2 parts called the Veda Purva and Vedanta. The Veda Purva is the first part of Vedas and it largely deals with rituals and prayers. Any Vedic ritual you do, like a wedding or a Griha Pravesham or Ayush Homam, are all part of Veda Purva. Hymns like Rudram and Purusha Suktam are also part of Veda Purva. Vedanta is the philosophy of Vedas presented at the end of each Veda as a series of texts called Upanishads. It explores profound subjects like where did we come from, why was the universe created, who am I? How do I get liberation? The first Upanishad I learnt was Mundaka Upanishad. It begins with the student Shaunaka asking a question to his teacher Angiras. What is that by knowing which everything else becomes as good as known? These are typically the kinds of questions that Upanishads explore. This part of the Vedas were traditionally only taught to sannyasis. In olden days, if you wanted to learn Vedanta, you had to give up all your worldly possessions and all the people who are dear to you. You had to wear the ochre robe and become a sannyasi. Did you know when you take up sannyasa, you have to perform your own last rites or tarpanam? You are given a new name to indicate that your old life is over. The only goal of a sannyasi is to seek liberation or moksha. The other 3 pursuits like dharma, artha, kama, the pursuit of pleasure, wealth or even punyam are not permitted to a sannyasi. You can imagine the frame of mind of such people who are willing to give up all other pursuits in search of moksha. They are not typically dealing with the kind of problems we deal with. They are not worried about finances or children's future or career progression. Upanishads addresses such people. To people like us, lot of what Vedanta says may not be practically useful in our day-to-day life. This world is only an illusion, it says. You are Brahman, the cause of the entire universe, it declares. When you're handling your troublesome children or taking care of your ailing parents or dealing with conflicts in workplace, it does not feel that way at all. The world appears very real and your powers seem very limited. Bhagavad Gita brilliantly packages the teachings of Vedanta for people like us. It is taught to Arjuna, a person who is very much a part of this world. For the first time, the teachings of Vedanta were presented in a manner that is relevant to all of us. You can think of Upanishads like a science book which tells you about the fundamental laws of nature like gravity and relativity. Bhagavad Gita, on the other hand, is like an engineering book. It teaches how to make these laws work for you. To understand Gita, you have to first understand the person to whom it was addressed. By all worldly measures, Arjuna was a successful man. He was the best archer of his time. He was a handsome man sought after by many women. He was a prince, and his brothers were the mighty Pandavas. His best friend was Lord Krishna himself. All this, however, did not insulate him from the vagaries of life. When he was in the biggest battle of his life, he was overcome with grief. He was paralyzed with indecision. The message from Arjuna's predicament is this: you can aspire for and achieve anything you want. That does not guarantee happiness. No amount of material success can give you that. Throughout the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna articulates his confusion and sorrow. I see so many people whom I love dearly standing in front of me. My dear grandfather, my beloved teacher, my cousins, my childhood friends. I have to kill all these people to win this war. How can I do this? Just the thought of it makes me shiver. My throat is parched and my mighty weapon is slipping from my arms. This is unbearable. I prefer to die than to kill these people. As you listen to Arjuna's lament, you find that you can completely relate to him. You're reminded of the price you pay for success. There is nothing called a free lunch. You work so hard to get a promotion, and when you look back, you find that your relationships are ruined. You're also reminded of the impossible choices that life presents sometimes. We call it Dharma Sankatam. When we are faced with the choice of doing the right thing and doing what is good for ourselves and our loved ones. This choice is all the more real in today's pandemic world. Should we hoard a medicine which will protect our loved ones but may deprive a critically ill patient? Should we bypass the queue for vaccination knowing that it may affect a frontline worker? These are the versions of the same dilemma that Arjuna faced in the battlefield thousands of years back. In Vedanta, this is called the problem of samsara, the inescapable sorrow, anger, grief, and confusion that each one of us encounter in life. The world has changed so much since Arjuna fought the battle of Kurukshetra, but problems of samsara have not changed. In Sanskrit, the word samsara is defined as samyak sarati iti samsara, that which keeps on flowing, that which never stops. Through this dialogue, sage Vyasacharya establishes the problem that Gita is looking to solve. Through the person of Arjuna, Vyasacharya reiterates that no amount of material success can solve this problem. Gita teaches you how to prepare yourself to face such situations, how to make the right choices, how to become proficient in navigating the turbulent waters of samsara. For any situation you are in, you can find a verse from Gita that can guide you. Mahatma Gandhi too has echoed this sentiment. When doubts haunt me and disappointments stare me in face, and I see not one ray of hope in the horizon, I turn to Bhagavad Gita and find a verse to comfort me. Those who meditate on the Gita will find fresh joy and new meaning from it every day. I will stop here. In the next post, I will talk about a few more lessons from the first chapter of the Gita. Thank you for watching. Do subscribe and share with like-minded people. Until next time, Namaste.